How was ARRP started? We were looking at a lot of the supply and demand curves with regard to anesthesiologists and CRNAs, and what we were seeing was that the future was not looking so great with regard to the census of physicians and CRNAs, and that we saw that there were going to likely be mismatch. There was likely to be a mismatch where there wouldn't be enough supply to accommodate the demand. And then when COVID hit, that essentially moved all the timelines to the left, meaning that the supply-demand mismatch and where supply was insufficient to meet demand was going to happen sooner and be more severe. And we saw that happening real time. And at the same time, we started to see anesthesiologists calling us up and saying, my ambulatory surgery center closed. I'd like to go back to the hospital. We saw people that said I had retired, and with COVID, I want to go back now and help out during COVID. We had people say to us, I might have had a hiccup or two in my professional career, but I want to put my mind to it and get back into the OR. And we started to get a lot of these calls, really around COVID, the time of COVID. And that's when we really started to work on the program, somewhere about mid-COVID, where we saw hospitals would need personnel, anesthesiologists and CRNAs, and that the supply would be insufficient, but there were reservoirs of clinicians that could, with the right program, come back to work and therefore mitigate some of these adversities that hospitals were facing in terms of coverage. What are the three major benefits that hospitals would see when they decide they want to consider ARRP? Well, one of the benefits is there's a social good. If you have anesthesiologists in your community and they want to get back to work and there's no outlet for them to be able to do that, well, this allows the hospital to play a positive and progressive role in getting these people back into the hospital and getting them back to work. So I think there's that social good where hospitals and hospital administrators and hospital leadership could feel good that they're in many ways being part of the solution to the problem of shortages and the problem of anesthesiologists in their community who want to get back to work. The second way that the program helps hospitals is they are able to establish, develop, and manage a self-replenishing pipeline of clinicians that once they finish the program might be able to go back to work in their hospital. And the third benefit to hospitals is that, much like you have anesthesiologists, CRNAs, and anesthesia assistants that all can go into an operating room and participate in the care of patients, well, so too can ARRP enrollees. They could go into the hospital and participate in the care of patients too. So in that vein, no pun intended, they could in some ways with this program be part of their local solution to anesthesia staffing. COVID impacted the program two ways. Number one, it brought people in from the community that wanted to get back into the hospital to be part of the solution, to care for patients that had COVID and to make a difference to their local hospital. The second way it impacted the program is that imagine if you were an anesthesiologist and you needed to go out for whatever the reason, just as COVID started, let's say you need to go for like a knee replacement, hip replacement, shoulder surgery, what have you, and need to take some time off, which, you had your surgery, you took time off, and now you wanted to go back to work, and you need a little bit of time to get brush the rust off after you've been away for a little while. In the past, you just go in, maybe work with a colleague or two on, do cases together with a colleague or two for a little while. And COVID really put the kiboshes on that. So you had this bucket of clinicians that did not intend to take 3 years off, but due to some COVID-related matter, ended up taking a prolonged time off, and now fast forward 2 or 3 years, and there's no mechanism for them to get back to work. So this program helps those clinicians get back to work. It helps clinicians that have had to take prolonged time off due to COVID, either because they had COVID or they need to stay away from the hospital during COVID, and it gets them back to work.